It is a lost in possession derby this Saturday as Man City take on Chelsea. Just 2 points separate them in the league. The question we asked today, a City back, a Chelsea back? Is this a battle for the top four? And we're going to get into some tactical analysis as well. Let's kickstart things off. Jamie, will come to you. The question I just said, a Man City back, a 6-0 away win. Are you starting to cook again? I think you're unbeaten in 6 games now. Are you back?
Well, what a turn of events, couldn't buy a win for 13 games and then go unbeaten for 6. That's a sort of mad sort of turnaround. Are we back though? It's sort of, I know it's sitting on the fence, but it's like a maybe. Because if you take the last 2 games, so the Brentford and the Ipswich one, the thing that we, like I said, problems before when we played like Bournemouth, and there were sort of other games, I said, I don't know what the defence tactic was, I don't know what the midfield was, and I don't know what the attack was. And thankfully, I'm now seeing what we're like. It's at least in attack. Against Brentford, we were very good at attacking and had more chances to score, which should have put us more out of sight and not cock up the 2-0 sort of lead. And then Ipswich, you score 6, you're doing something right in attack. But does that mean we're back? I don't know, because look, like I said, with the Brentford game, you mess up a 2-0 lead. Brentford have got a very, very good home record this season. So it's not that dramatic that we drew. It was just the manner of the draw from it. So it's hard to talk about. And we're obviously doing this before the Champions League game where we've got PSG away. If we go and absolutely turn them over, it's looking more likely that we're back. But it's a tough place to go. And if you're going off what I said on TikTok, I'm currently 4 for 4 for City predictions this month. I said a draw at PSG. So if we're taking things like that, it doesn't mean we're back. But things like Diaz coming back into the defence is better for us. Foden, 4 goals in 2 games. These are things that are improving. Savio has always looked decent, but he's now putting it into more goals and assists kind of performances. There's still a question mark over the midfield and of the defence. But against Chelsea, our 2 new centre-backs are ready. They've been training. They were training actually before they were announced for City, which is quite unusual. But are we back? It's a maybe. I know it's sitting on the fence, no clear sort of answer, but I think that's where you've got to talk about it right now.
Yeah, I think from my side, it's obviously frustrating that you've managed to string a few wins together and you're looking a little bit better again. And even regardless of Ipswich and whatever, like beating a team 6-0 away at any team in the Premier League is a confidence boost at the very least. We'll see obviously what happens with PSG. I don't really think PSG might be harsh, but I don't really consider PSG a big team anymore. Yes, they're top of the league, but they're always top of the league. They've not really got any superstars, so I'm not going to be looking into that game too much unless you lose it. But to play devil's advocate, although I'm saying it's a bit nervy playing you guys with a little bit of form, if you actually look at these games and kind of break it down, there's not anything in there that you're really fearing. 1-1 draw at home to Everton, beating Leicester away, everyone beats Leicester away. West Ham at home, everyone beats West Ham at home. So Salford, doesn't really count. And then Brentford away is a draw. So if we're being harsh and being critical of Man City, I don't think we can say you're truly back yet. But if you go, as I said, if you go and spank PSG, you beat us, then maybe there is more of an argument. I'm more concerned about us, to be honest, because a month ago over the Christmas period, or just before the Christmas period, I was eyeing this game up as revenge. I was eyeing this game up as 3 points. And now in 6 game weeks, the whole narrative shifted. Until yesterday, we couldn't buy a win, and it was like roles reversed. Thankfully, we got the job against Wolves and we looked a little bit better. But this game I think is very, very hard to call now, because you've got 2 teams who are kind of there but not really there, and certainly not at the peak of their powers. Reece, from your side, from a more neutral perspective, how do you see this one playing out, and how do you view the form of both teams?
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. I think in 163 games between you both, Chelsea have got 64 wins, City have got 63. So it goes to show how very close this game has been throughout history, particularly with both teams being where they are now, or recent success this century, to be more precise. It's a tough game, and it's an interesting one now because both teams seem to have bounced back just as they're due to play each other, which is good and bad for both of you, I'm sure. In terms of the element of our City back, I think they're purring at the moment. You know, they haven't lost in, would you say, 6 games? You could talk about the opposition all you want, but 2 months ago they weren't beating these teams. They're beating them and they're looking confident. You know, every touch led to a goal at Portman Road at the weekend. And Chelsea was struggling as well, throwing away silly games, and then seemed to stabilise themselves against Wolves, despite stupidly giving them a chance to equalise. So there's a lot riding on this game, and I think both teams are probably a little bit confident, a little bit nervous. To say City are back, I think this game would determine if they are. I don't think it's too outrageous to say if they do beat Chelsea, because they go above them, that they're back in it, in terms of at least finishing in a top 2 position, because that'll only put them, depending on how results go, if results go in their favour, you know, put them 3 points off the others. They're better than Arsenal. They're better than Nottingham Forest. So I don't see why they can't put themselves back into it. Chelsea's record against the top 2, top 3, top 4 isn't great. I think you've drawn them, if not lost. So it's an opportunity for Chelsea to show that, you know, that they can compete up there. So this is a really tough game to call for both, I think. But I think it's a real marker for City to show where they are, because that slip up at Brentford was poor, but it's not the worst result, bearing in mind who they played.
Yeah, I think just touching on City, I mean, it is still, in terms of could they be back in the title race potentially, like, it's still 12 points and it's still a game in hand to Liverpool. So I personally don't see it, regardless of, even if they, you know, you go and spank us 3-0 or something like that. I don't think you're back in the title race personally. I think we'd still need to see a very big Liverpool drop off.
The title race is we're not in the title race. Like I said, when we drew them points to Palace in December, it was done. Like, it was fully done, because we'd come off a good win beating Forest. It was like that was the time to get the momentum. Now, next month after we play you, well, including playing you, we've got, in our next games, we've got PSG away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle at home, Liverpool at home, Spurs away, which we're dreadful at. Like, forget Spurs' form, it does not matter. We're dreadful at Spurs away, and well, Spurs at home this season as well. Villa, Forest is like the next, and Arsenal as well. That's the next 8 games.
Yeah.
So if we win all 8 of those, then we might be in the title race. That's winning all 8. So that's how low it's just not going to. It's just not. So I don't want to hear anything about a title race for City. Top 2, as Reece sort of said, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
More than a possibility.
I don't know. If we go and lose to Chelsea on the weekend, I don't see it as a possibility.
Really? I mean, come on. Arsenal will probably lose.
We're not the same side.
But you're better than Arsenal, and you've got more of a mentality than Forest.
But we're not at the moment.
We
are where we deserve to be.
You will probably piss all over Arsenal in the next few weeks. And those home games you've got are more than winnable. Arsenal can't beat teams like Wolves away from home. They're showing that they're not that good. I think if you overtake Arsenal, it is humiliation for Arsenal with how bad you've been. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about City, Chelsea. You're in more of a title race, even a top 2 race, than Chelsea are. Because I think Chelsea throw away against silly teams at this moment, even when they're in form.
Yeah, based on what I've seen in the last kind of 5-6 games, I'd probably agree. And to be honest, even if we go and beat you, I still think you could get top 2, because again, you're talking about an inexperienced Chelsea side, youngest in Premier League history. Forest, we know, are going to drop off, and you've got Arsenal, who, as we've said, we don't think are ready. So I still wouldn't write you off even if you lose, but it'll be a bit. I don't know if embarrassing is the right word, but like, we haven't beaten you since 2021, which was the Champions League final.
I can tell you, yeah. Champions League final was when you last beat him. You last beat him at the Etihad in that same season.
Yeah. So for us, that's a psychological barrier we've got to try and get over. So I think it would still be surprising if we went and beat City, irrespective of the earlier form. But I don't think it would derail your season completely still, weirdly.
I mean, in the last 10 times you've played City since you beat them in the Champions League finals, you've lost 8 and drawing 2, including that 4-4. City are slowly getting players back, and I think they've got the players to still do it. But you've also got the opportunity to lay a marker down to end that hoodoo. It's probably your best opportunity to actually end that hoodoo now than it would be next season.
Yeah. And before we get on to like key tactical battles and face up matchups, I do still think at the start of the season we've got to look at that game where it was the first ever game for us under Maresca in terms of competitive game. City, we didn't know City were going to have this drop off. And although City won the game, I think we showed on that day we can compete. And I know I've probably mentioned it about 5 or 6 times. We had a higher XG. Possession wise, it was pretty even. And you always see City dominate possession. So if you're looking at that game for a bit of insight, I do still think we have a chance. But some of the recent form, and I think I've seen a lot of concerns, let's say, for us. Plus, you've got all the injuries to throw in the mix for us as well, which I think is probably the biggest concern, going away to the Etihad.
Right then, let's talk the game on Saturday then. So what are some of the key battles that you see developing on Saturday for what is the right result? Like what wins Chelsea the game for you?
I don't know, probably the wingers, but I'd say Jackson's ability to get past your defenders. So what?
You think really? Let's just try and put actual players. So Jackson versus a Diaz, a Kanji centre back. That's who the sort of ones.
Yeah. So, I mean, what Jackson's been very good at lately is coming a bit deeper, receiving the ball sort of on the turn, beating that. Typically, it's been beating a couple of CDMs. Like he did it really well, not against Wolves the game before, but he gets the ball. Sorry, in the Newcastle game it was. Gets the ball, body, strength, pace, turns the man, and then starts running through on goal. I think if he can pick up the ball where some of your CDMs have not been firing, Kovacic, Gundogan, etc. I think if he can do that, like he's been doing and like he did against Newcastle, and obviously we've got the wide men breaking forward, I think that's our chance to try and win this game. But to do that, we've got to be solid defensively. And, Tosin, it will probably start the game. We've probably got Colwill out. Is he ready to take on Haaland? I don't know. But I think that's another one to look at.
Yeah, I think let's look into the sort of Tosin Chalobah was your last centre-back pairing versus Haaland. Now, Chalobah's obviously played Haaland for Palace this season. Chalobah struggled aerially against Haaland. So that could be a bit of concern on that if he pulls off and starts sort of going, right, I'm taking on Chalobah because I've seen I can beat him in the air kind of thing. Because Tosin's obviously taller. I think he's really tall. I can't remember his height now. He's 6'5" plus something stupidly. Yeah. So with your sort of centre-back pairing this season, Chelsea, have they left a lot of space in behind? Because I think if you do that, that's dangerous for a Haaland to run into.
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's been a little bit mixed, I'd say. I would personally sit a bit deeper. The concern is that obviously Lavia is going to be out. There's still doubts over Enzo. So I am a little bit concerned about Caicedo. I mean, I'm not concerned about Caicedo, but him on his own in that role. And you're probably going to have, as you said, probably Kovacic and Gundogan in there. I almost think if that is the case, I don't think Dewsbury Hall, I've not seen enough of him this season to say he's good at defense. Like he's not comparable to Lavia in terms of defensively. I'm tempted to say we take a risk and we go a little bit more attacking and just try and break down and try and basically take advantage of some of the City nerves defensively. That would probably be how I'd want to line up. I don't know if he will, but I do still think there's a bit of weakness there to exploit.
Reese, what do you think is the game like? Where's this won and lost for you, sort of for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, both teams are quality across the whole pitch. I think City having less restability, because we know Chelsea will play a completely different squad in the Conference League, for example, is a big factor, because City need to beat PSG. Let's be honest here. That might even take priority. They might put all their eggs in that basket and be like, look, we need to get out of that mess first. You've got the likes of Haaland and Foden in attack. They're going to be hard to stop. You've also got the likes, of course, Palmer, again, Nicholas Jackson, pulling strings up front. Madueke, if he plays, I think he's done well. So it's a very much a balancing act for both sides. Maybe the battle in midfield is where it's going to be one. Who can nullify getting the ball forward? So can Chelsea nullify De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva? Can they stop Kovacic? Because let's be honest, he's been outstanding. And can City nullify the Chelsea midfield? Most likely Palmer. He's probably the obvious one. And any nullify that, then it might allow how to hit on the counter. Chelsea will probably be best going for the counter attack. City might be unbeaten, but they can see goals.
Yeah.
And Chelsea have the players to score those goals. I would go on the counter attack against City here, and it's up to City to be smart enough to, because they've still got players returning. Ruben Dias, I think, will probably play against PSG, but will he last 90 minutes against Chelsea? We do not know. So Chelsea have a fitter squad. They've got to take advantage of that and absolutely outrun them, overload the flanks if they have to, overload it, cause all those problems. But City will really look to try and probably slow the pace down and keep control. And I think midfield will be critical for both sides.
Yeah, I do kind of agree with the midfield from City's point of view. I think we have to go with the midfield three that we played against Ipswich. It looked good against Ipswich, but can we do it against the better teams? That was Gundogan's best performance since he's come back, and I don't think it's not that difficult. He's not had great performances, but that was a Gundogan performance of what we saw 2 years ago. So it's kind of if he's back, that gives us a massive boost. And I think them two together, because one can sit back, one can go forward, and they can rotate. So it's not just one person, carrying the ball, because they're both very, very good at sort of progressing the ball. And I think that will help massively, because that means one can be looking at Palmer when he's in the sort of centre areas, or Jackson, like Jordan said, he's dropping deep. There'll be someone there. Okay, they're not Rodri. They're not going to have the strength of Rodri or the pace, but at least it's not what we've been doing in our terrible spell, where we've had one of the two and then they progress forward and then no one's back. And if we do that, Chelsea will kill us. Chelsea are going to get 4 past us, because that's basically what happened against Spurs. We basically just let them have the whole midfield, and that's where we can lose it. So I definitely agree. Midfield is a massive risk, I think, for both, because you've got Caicedo there. If Drewsbury Hall is the player to go in there, if he's not up to the level, he can get bullied in that game by, there's very good players on both sides. So it's sort of like, if you're the standout weakness, you're going to be shown up in this game.
Yeah, I think as well, I may be made to eat my words, but I think having Reece James back fit, Cucurella in really good form, I feel relatively safe about coming up against your wingers.
I don't think you can say Reece James is fit ever again. You just don't know. He could get injured in training over a piece of grass at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even say he's going to start, because he gets injured so often. It's a sad situation for him. The amount of injuries picked up. I hope he has a terrible game. I hope he doesn't get injured, kind of thing for him. But I don't think you can rely on James to play 90 minutes against City.
No, he'll play 60, 70.
And against someone like Savio, who's getting into form, is a quick, tricky defender. It doesn't mean James can't keep up with him, but if he's on him for 70 odd minutes, that injury's gonna be felt, if that makes sense. Like, because he's only back for what, 1.5 games so far.
Yeah, it's been about 110 minutes actually on the pitch, so it's very
Exactly.
low.
So if he's getting made to run a lot from him, that could cause problems just for him in general, and that causes problems for you. But yeah, Cucurella's had a good season. He is, you see he's had his hair pulled a few times, but you've also seen him jump in the air when he's not been touched and stay down for 3 minutes. He's one of them players that people seem to hate and won't give the credit for. But I think he's been very, very good for you, and I think he's probably been top 5 left backs in the league without properly thinking about what position he'd be, like number 1 to 5 kind of thing. So yeah, it is. But then Foden's got into the goal scoring form, so then can he stop that? So it's a weird one, that, really. The other one I think actually you've not mentioned is you'd probably have Neto on the left hand side.
Well, I think he'll go Neto right, Sancho left.
Okay, so whoever's playing on the left, though, if you've seen our right back for the past 2 games, has been Nunes, not a right back. Nothing about him's a right back.
Yeah.
So that's a big place for you to exploit. Now he might not play. It might be Lewis there. Walker's definitely not going to be there. He's already in Milan. So it's sort of, if it is Nunes, that's got to be a place that Chelsea target, I think, because that's against a very good winger. He will struggle, unfortunately, and Foden doesn't get back enough to help him out as much as he should. So that's somewhere I'm concerned about watching.
I mean, I do think Lewis will start, but I think, as we saw against United, Nunes had a shocker. It was a shocker. It's not his fault. It's a patched up squad.
I actually want to disagree on that, because he actually played very well at left back. He was left back that game, but he made the shocker that gave the game away.
Yeah, that was the ultimate decision. Because he's playing out of position, you've got to make him make these decisions, because he that's something he's not going to be comfortable with, and it's putting that pressure on him. Like I said, with City, I would argue having a less fitter squad. Look, they're still going to do damage. De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Haaland, even if just 2 of them are 100% fit, or 3 of them, we still know De Bruyne is still going to ping balls in regardless. Take advantage of the players that are just coming back. If the new boys play, take advantage of them, because they've got to adapt to the system. We see how Pep likes you to adapt. Take advantage of it. Chelsea will have to exploit every weakness City have. It's not many, but that's why I say counter-attacking. And like I said, go for those players that are probably new to a team or just adjusting. And if they're not 100% fit, your squad is really fit. So they've got to go for it. Even shoot from distance. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea have got the players to shoot from distance too. Don't be afraid to make that choice.
Yeah, I think a fast start is key as well. Try and rattle them. Try and send them back to that form where they were just, leaky defensively. Let's move on, I guess, to our kind of score predictions, and I guess the kind of question we mentioned earlier on: how crucial is this game for Champions League positions? Because as we said, 2 points separate them. A win for Chelsea would be absolutely massive to go 5 points clear of City at this stage in the season. But for City, it's straight back above us. So I guess, do we think this has a massive impact on top 4 for the whole season? And then let's touch on our score predictions.
I'll start off this. I think whoever wins, if there is a winner, they get Champions League football. But whoever loses, I don't think's out of it, because it's looking very likely that top 5 get Champions League football next season. I think someone did the sort of stats on it, and it's something like a 98.5% likeliness we get the extra spot. So it's the top 5 get Champions League. So that's why I don't think they're completely out of it. And I don't think it means they can't get top 4. But for City, think it's like City losing is worse than Chelsea losing, because especially if City's next games, we need some momentum to go into that, and this is the start of that momentum. Like, ignore the PSG game because that's a different competition. We can't go into the sort of, Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, Forest, Spurs and lose half of them. We can't. So this is where we've got to start going, right, we're winning this game. Maybe pick up a draw at Arsenal. Maybe it sort of keep the momentum going, and you can't just stop on the first hurdle. So I think that's the way top four would go with it. But I think Chelsea losing isn't the end of the world to their Champions League aspirations. I think it could be more damaging to City, though.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. Considering your run of games, it's almost a must-win. It feels like a must-win. Because if you are, you have to be back almost. Because if you're not back, you could very, very, very quickly slide down the table to, 8th to 10th potentially, if things get ugly over this run. So yeah, I think there is definitely, although our form's been worse over the last 5-6 games, I think there's a lot of pressure on you guys this game, more so than us. I'll do my score prediction to kick things off. I think it's going to be tight, so I'm going to go 2-2. I'm hoping City's defensive issues come back. I think you will score because we've not been, we have been giving goals away. So I think 2-2 for me.
So I'll sort of say my points. I think it will be a high scoring game. I've gone with 3-2 City. It's kind of your defence that's sort of given me a bit of hope with the way that you've leaked goals. It's not taken teams a lot of chances to get them goals. So I'm hoping we'll get enough to win 3-2. Reece, you got the deciding sort of neutral factor.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Chelsea losing, even if they get heavily beaten, which I don't think they will, wouldn't derail their season. Their problem is actually getting, wins against teams that they probably should beat, particularly at home. There is importance to this because City want to prove this isn't a false dawn, for example. I think, just from what I've seen, I think City could nick this. Whether it be 1-0 or 2-1 is a different argument, but because I think both of you can see goals, I'm going to say 2-1 City.
There you go. There we have it. 2 going City, 1 going to draw. But make sure to put your score predictions in the comment section right now. But that wraps us up for another episode. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.